Our survivor today is Joseph Krosberg. Today is September 26, 1996. I'm Lori Fine. We're in Brooklyn, New York, the United States of America, and our language is English. Our survivor is Joseph Krosberg. Today is September 26, 1996. I'm Lori Fine. We're in Brooklyn, New York, the United States of America, and our language is English. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please tell us your name with the spelling?
My name is Joseph Krosberg, Krosberg.
Was this your name at birth?
Yes.
What's your Hebrew name?
Yosef ben Yosef Hersh Krosberg.
Were you ever known by any other names?
No.
Could you give us your date of birth?
December 17, 1920.
How old are you now?
I'm 75.
Could you tell us where you were born?
I was born in Krosberg.
Could you spell it?
That's a little hard. K-O-N-S-K-O-W-L-A, something like this.
Where was this?
This is in Poland, of the district of Lublin.
What did the town look like?
I would not remember it vividly. I used to go there because I lived in Warsaw with my mother.
When did you move there?
Oh, I was practically born in Warsaw, but the papers were from over there. This was my father's town. And my grandparents were living there. So for the summertime, I used to go over there. My mother sent me there to spend the summertime. Where did
you grow up?
In Warsaw.
How could you describe the city?
It was a big city. At that time, I thought it was no bigger than that, till I reached New York. Yeah. And look, we went to our own things to do. Being that I live only with my mother, I did not have a father that passed away before I was born.
Could you tell about that?
Yeah.
What was your father's name?
Josef Hersh Krosberg. He passed away 6 weeks before I was born. This is why my Hebrew name is Ben Yosef. And he actually was practically killed in the Polish army. Practically. He was hit over the head, and afterwards he was released being sick. Something happened to his brains or whatever it is, being hit over the head. And a few weeks later he passed away.
Do you know why he was hit?
Because he was Jewish, and the anti-Semitism was very big. Poland got just freed from the Russians. So what else? Let's beat up a Jew.
How old was your father at that time?
I don't recall. He must have been like 25 or maybe something like this, or 24. I really don't know. I surmise it was about this age, but I don't know.
What was your mother's name?
Scheindler.
Did your mother work?
She was a seamstress. It was her only way of support.
When you think back to her, what thought comes to mind?
When it comes to mind that she was so hard-working to be able to raise me, because money was not easy to come by. When she had to feed me, to pay the little rent that there was to pay. We lived at that time in a basement room, not an apartment, a room. And this is what she was doing. She was very courageous because she had lost her mother the same day that I was born. I was born at 5 o'clock in the morning. My grandmother passed away at 8 o'clock at night. So this was, very, very bad on her. But life had to continue. She had a kid to take care of.
Did you have any brothers and sisters?
No.
When you spoke about living in Warsaw, do you remember where you lived?
Yeah, the first room that we lived in, as I was saying before, it was in a basement apartment. It was a tremendous house. It's called Novolipka. I don't know the spelling of it. But this I remember because we moved out from there when I was, I think, 4.5 years old, something like this. So I still remember, if it would be now, I would go straight into that room.
Where did you grow up?
Till I was 8 years old, I lived in Warsaw.
Do you remember which house?
Yeah, the last one, yeah, Pawa. This I remember the spelling, P-A-W-A, 64A. That was the number of the house.
What did it look like?
Like all the big houses with courtyards. You know, you walked into one big door and there was a courtyard. And we lived downstairs in a room.
Did you have running water?
No.
Electricity?
No. There was not even any facilities there. You had to go in the courtyard, that's all.
You had mentioned grandparents. Could you
Yes.
tell us about them?
I had my grandfather on my mother's side, but he did not live in Warsaw. He lived also near Lublin. It's called Puławy. This is where he lived, and later on he remarried. And it was in the same street that he had his oldest son living there. And that's all I remember from him. I mean, I used to see him when I used to go to my other grandparents. I passed by there.
What was his name?
Melach,
The last name?
Shabason.
And what
Yeah.
about the other grandparents?
My other grandparents, I remember more because I used to spend a few weeks there in the summer. They had a nice little house. It was not a town, you know. There was no sidewalks and nothing. But they had a house and with an orchard in the back, and he was a carpenter.
What grew in the orchard?
All kind of fruit, all kind of fruit. And my grandmother also was a seamstress. She was making more or less bed artifacts, like pillows and pillow covers or sheet covers or whatever it is, you know. And she was an outstanding woman, because I don't know why. Maybe because I was the survivor of her son. Could be. But she treated me very nice, and she was so happy to see me. And he too, he was already at that time, he was 75 years old. And he could not work anymore that well, so he made little things. And he loved to keep me on the bench, give me a hammer to do things that I didn't know what I was doing, but just to make noise, that's all.
What were their names?
My grandmother's name was Rochme. I wouldn't know even how to spell it, but and my grandfather was Chemje.
And the last name?
They were Krosbergs. Yeah.
How long did you remain in this area?
Well, every time I used to go there for 2-3 weeks, just for the summer.
And how long did you live in Warsaw?
Warsaw, I lived all my life. Because actually I was born in Warsaw, but because of those Polish laws, or whatever you might call it, my father and my mother got married, but in the Jewish faith, and it did not count as an official wedding. So they had to take out a birth certificate in the town that he lived in, that he used to live there. This is why my name is in Konskivala, the name. Otherwise, I was born in Warsaw. And this is also why my mother had to keep her maiden name, and not Krosberg, but Shabason.
Do you remember the schools you attended?
I went there till my second grade, the middle of the second grade I left.
What was the name of the school?
I would not know.
Where did you go after that?
We went to Belgium because it was hard to make a living. And at that time, my uncle, my mother's brother, was already here in Belgium. So she figures she goes over there, and the laws was a little more liberal. Like she could go into a factory working, where in Warsaw she could not. So at least she could make a living. This is where we went, to a little town near the Liège. This is the eastern part of Belgium.
What was the name of this little town?
Seraing.
Could you spell that?
S-E-R-A-I-N-G.
Did you go to school there?
Yeah, I went there for a year or year and a half, and then we went to Brussels. There, my mother had a job in some kind of a shoe factory or something like this. And later on she did all kind of jobs.
What did you do while you were there in Brussels?
You mean when I went to school there? Yeah.
Do you remember which school?
Yeah. Public school number 13. This I would never forget.
What was it like for you coming from Poland?
It was hard, the language, first of all. It was nothing resembling to French or Yiddish or whatever. I mean, you know. So, this is, but we made it. That's the most important thing.
Did you have friends?
Oh yeah, I had a lot of friends there, school friends or whatever it is. My mother had people that she knew from Poland.
Did you have any, do you have any recollection of how you spent time with these friends?
Not really. We didn't have too much time to, me as a young kid, we had, I mean, I played outside with the other kids or whatever, but my mother was too busy to make a living, and it was not always easy, because many times I had days where I was hungry, especially like in the early 30s. There was also, like in the United States, there was a big depression over there too. So she did all kind of jobs to make a living.
Did you have any family in Brussels?
Yeah, I had my uncle that was my mother's brother.
His name?
Avrum Shabason. He's still alive. He's in Brussels. He will be 92. I call him almost every week, every second week. He came here about 2 years ago.
Did you have any religious education?
Not really. When I was in Poland and my mother sent to my grandparents, so I had to go to Cheder. every day. Because he would not let me be like this without going to Reda. This is a nice recollection.
Did you belong to any organizations or groups as a young person?
No, no.
Do you remember what languages you spoke at that
With my
time?
mother, Yiddish, all the time.
Did you ever attend synagogue?
Oh yeah. And I was even I sang in the chorus of the Reform school, of the Reform temple.
Do you remember what you sang?
Well, Friday night.
Do you remember any of the songs?
Not really, not really. We used to go also for Hanukkah, let's say, to old age homes and sing also, you know. I went there because a friend of mine was there, and he said, why don't you come along? They paid us pennies, whatever it is, but look, it was good, you know.
Do you remember the friend's name?
Not really, not really. But I know he was deported. This I know. This I know. Because I think I was with one of his brothers there in camp. But I would not remember his name.
Did your mother observe any Jewish rituals?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What do you remember?
Not really, how do you call it, very strict, but she was lighting candles on Shabbos, and the high holidays she used to go to shul, observe everything, yeah. But not really strict religious.
Did you have special Shabbos meals?
Oh yeah, Friday night, whatever she could make, whatever she could afford.
Do you remember Pesach?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
What was that like?
Look, I was only with my mother alone. We could not observe a Seder. But she made a nice Pesach meal, whatever it is, you know, whatever we could afford, that's all.
What were you doing before the war?
I was doing raincoats. I mean,
Were you sewing?
Sewing, and at that time they used to make, how do you call it, cementing the raincoats. Because my mother was doing it at home, so I was helping her while I was going to school. And this way I learned the trade, and when I came out from school I did the same thing.
What were your plans for the future?
No plans. We were just planning for the next day, that's all. Never knowing what will happen.
Did you ever experience anti-Semitism as a young person growing up?
Oh yeah, even in school, for sure. You know, it was not like here you go to a school and you have a load of Jewish kids. Over there, we went in class, let's say one, maybe two Jews that were in the class.
Where was that?
In Brussels. And not one time, but a few times they call you dirty Jew. I had fights with them or whatever. I tried to defend it, but you could not teach those people what to do.
Did anyone try to help you?
Not really. The school principal, yeah. Because one time I had a fight, I beat up a guy because he called me that. So his mother came the next day to school to complain. So he asked me why, so I told him because he called me a dirty Jew. So I told the mother of the boy, so you teach your kid to not to do it, and that's all. But otherwise, they didn't help.
What was the general relationship between the Jews and the non-Jews?
Really, it was not so much anti-Semitic. It just that a few ignorant people were sometimes insulting you. Oh, they didn't want to rent you, let's say, an apartment or whatever. But really, the Belgian people were not anti-Semitic. let's say in the late 20s, in early 30s, when the first Jews arrived there, they didn't believe it. They thought the Jews are having horns on their head. They never knew a Jew. You know? This is what happened.
How did you keep abreast of the current events of the time?
The papers, that's all.
What sort of papers did you read?
We had also delivered some Yiddish papers that used to come from Poland. So we used to buy the paper, and this is what my mother could read. I read it too, but I mostly read the English papers, the French papers.
What news would they give you?
Like you have here the New York Times. They had all kinds of papers there.
Did you ever have a radio?
A radio I had when the first radio I had in 1938. I was already working, you know.
What sort of news did you get?
The official news from, no bias news and nothing, the regular news.
Were you aware of what was happening in Germany?
Oh yeah, oh sure.
What reports did you get?
Because we had people that came as refugees, that ran over from Germany and then later on from Austria.
What did they tell you?
They tell you that they lost their jobs, they lost their homes or whatever it is, and then you saw the newsreels in the movies. Even that Kristallnacht, we saw it in the newsreels.
Did you believe all the reports you were hearing?
Oh yeah, I believed it. I believed it.
Were you ever aware of the existence of concentration camps or extermination camps?
No, this we were not. This I was not.
Did you think you would become affected by what was happening?
I did not think so, because we were so sure that the Germans will never come over to Belgium, because first of all the French had the Maginot Line, that they will never come over there, whatever it is. We never know that this can happen so in a few days.
How were the refugees treated when they came to your area?
Oh, they were helped from Jewish organizations a lot.
What was the official government response?
They were friendly, very friendly.
Did they get any benefits or help?
No, there was not such thing as benefit. The benefits came from Jewish organization or private people. They tried to give him jobs or whatever, you know.
At what point did your life change?
When my life changed, when I was separated from my mother.
When was this?
This was in May 1940. After the Germans were coming close, they were already bombarding Brussels. So we just locked up the door and we left, my mother and I. Trains were not running.
What did you take with you?
Whatever we could carry. That's about it. And we walked for kilometers and kilometers till we could reach a station that was open to take the train.
Where did you arrive?
We arrived to the French border, and it's called Tournai.
How far was that from where you lived?
I would say about 50, 60 kilometers from there. Well, because Belgium was a small town, a small country. And this is where we had those, they stopped the train at the border, and you had the militaries coming up checking the papers. Among them was also Polish militaries. There were those Free Army Poles that were in the West. And he looked at my ID card, because we had to carry an ID card at all time.
What information was on that ID?
The information was your name and address, had to be where you live, where you're born, you know, if you are a foreigner or you're Belgium or whatever it is. And when he saw that I'm born in Poland, he said, okay, you go to the Polish army. And they separate me with my mother. My mother continued on the train. And we slept over there in some kind of warehouse.
Was that the last time you saw your mother?
No, I saw her later on. But I will come to it. So we slept over in the warehouse. During the night they were bombarding so hard. And we got up in the morning, that Polish sergeant and his aide, they were all gone. And we remained all by ourselves without papers, because they took the papers.
Who were you with?
Some other people that I never knew.
How
young
many
men.
of you?
Oh, there was a whole load of it. But we, like groups, we started. And I got very friendly with another boy my age. And like this, we were stopped a few times by the French. They thought we have fifth colonne because we don't have papers, whatever. Finally, we arrived in Paris. And I didn't have any money. He had some money. So
Who was this?
a friend that I just befriended right there in the in that warehouse.
Do you remember his name?
No, I never heard of him again. He had family in Lyon. This is in southern France. So he had a destination where he wanted to go. I did not have, so we arrived in Paris, and he had money, so we rented a room in a hotel. We could take a bath and whatever it is. Next morning I knew my mother had a cousin that lived there. So I called him up from the hotel. He said, come on over. We went there. So I slept over there. He gave me some food, whatever. Next morning I got up. I said, I have to go look for my mother. And there were all kinds of refugee camps there from people. And in one camp by camp, I asked for if they know if my mother is there. And they said no. But before that I had to, that same morning before that, I went up to the Polish consulate. I said, look, I don't have, they took my papers. They said, yeah, they're here. And they gave it to me. So this way I could move around. And when I came to there, they asked me for paper. Oh, you're Pole? You stay here. I said, yeah, but I'm coming I know I have to go to the army there, whatever it is. I want to get out of there. No. You stay there. And this was it. I never knew about my mother then. And they took us to a camp, like, how do you call it, transit camp. That camp was underneath the bleachers from Roland Garros, the tennis court where they played the French Open. Underneath the bleachers, we're laying there on the sand, I think for 2 days.
Did they give you any provisions?
No. Whatever you could buy or get, whatever.
Did you have any money with you?
I had very few pennies, actually. But I befriended an elderly gentleman there. And he was a rich man, but they took him, you know. So with us, they sent us to the Camp du Vernet. This is where I remained for, this was in May, till the beginning of August in '42. But while I was in Vernet, I worked in the garden there. This was a privilege if they let you work there.
We're going to stop the tape now.
Okay.
Our survivor is Joseph Krosberg, and today is September 26, 1996.
Yeah, so as I was saying, I got befriended with an elderly gentleman. He was originally a rich man, but he was taken because he was Hungarian. He was a baron. But they didn't look at this. The French didn't look at this. He was a foreigner, so they took him.
Was he Jewish?
Yes, but not, I don't know if he was pure Jewish, he was a mixed or whatever. But they didn't look at that time Jews or no Jews, taking all foreigners. And I helped them, being that I was young at that time. I was 19 and a half, so I had the strength. He had at least 2 pieces. I helped him, and we landed in Vernay after the trip. So we were laying on the same, what do you call it, bunker. You know, like we were 5 in a row, laying one next to the other.
This was after the stadium?
Yeah. Yeah.
How long did you stay in the stadium?
I think it was 2 days, something like this.
Who patrolled there? Who watched you?
Or the French gendarme or garde mobile, whatever. Garde mobile is like state troopers or something like this.
Did they talk to you at all, tell you what was happening?
No, not really, not really. And in Camp de Vernay, that man, till he got in touch with all his people that he knew, especially ministers and all this from the Vichy government that later became Vichy. He knew them all because he was from the upper echelon. So then he got all kind of packages and money, and he helped me. So I could not, I wrote to the Red Cross. Over there we were allowed to, it was not like a German camp. So I used to write to the Red Cross to find out what happened to my mother. And one day I get an answer. I write a letter to a rabbi in Toulouse, and I get an answer, your mother is still in Brussels. I said, this guy doesn't know nothing. I mean, she was on the train with me. What is she doing in Brussels? But I had no other information. But when this gentleman got in touch with his people that he knew, he was freed. I was even permitted with him to go to the railroad station to help him with the valises. And when he left, he said, look, I will get in touch with your mother, find out where she is. Because he went from France, he went to Switzerland. Look, money was no object for him. And from Switzerland, he contacted my mother. And this is the only way she knew that I'm alive and where I am. So in 1941, she smuggled over the German-French part to the Vichy part, and she came to visit me. And this is the last time I saw my mother.
What did you talk about?
About everything, what happened, how she came back to Brussels. She said, as she was on the train, the Germans were so fast that they were faster than the train. So she figured, what do I do in a country that I don't know anything? I go back to Brussels. And then she told me that everything is fine, they don't bother the Jews, you know, whatever it is, and they're working. So that was good enough for me.
Did you think this would be the last time you'd see her?
No, I did not think. Who knew what the future brings? So,
what was life like in Vernay, in this camp?
They gave us some food. I mean, it wasn't that great, but being that was not such a strict camp, there were people there that had family outside to send them packages, and the camaraderie was very, very nice, and people helped each other.
What did the camp look like?
The camp looked like, how should I say, was also barbed wires, but not like like in Germany. There was barracks there, and they were all filled up because when especially the acts like Italy got together with Germany, they brought in a lot of people. There are 42 nations in there, 42 nationalities.
How many people do you think were there?
I really would not try to guess it. There was a lot of freedom fighter from the Spanish Civil War. There were all kind of people. They were speaking all languages possible in there. So, but I tried to get out. Also, I was befriended by the guy that used to run the garden there. So he got me out there to work. At least we got some extra food from the garden, whatever was there. And later on, I got a job in a brick factory.
In Vernet?
Outside Vernet. They used to take people out of work, and excuse me, it was actually lucky when you could get this, because the freedom was magnificent in that brick factory. I was running the garden there, and when there was some extra work in the brick factory, they used to take you from the garden, whatever. We cooked our own food. We were there like 4 or 5 guys there, you know. And the owners of that factory were very nice to us. They paid us. Not a lot, but cheaper than what he would pay somebody else. And came Sunday, we could go out to the village. I could have easily run away from there, but who should know what happened? So I said, we can live here all the time till the war is over. Till in 42, and it must have been the end of July, they came, the Guardmobile took me back to camp.
Who took you?
The Guardmobile took me back to camp. We didn't know what. And my boss from over there liked me very much as a worker and whatever. And
do you remember his name?
No. But I know the village there.
What did you eat in this camp? Do you remember the food?
Where in
Vernet?
In Vernet? Mostly garbanzos, chickpeas, whatever there was. And they used to cook whatever they used to get from the camp, you know.
What did you wear?
Our clothes, whatever we had. That's what we had.
How did you keep clean?
That was a different story. Hygienic things that were not there. The bedrooms were outside. We had to, the chore was to take out those big and carry it to the river and clean it and put it back underneath. I mean, it was not very rosy. But we had fleas, we had lice, we had rats. In the same bag there was a bunch of Hungarian, they were also freedom fighters from Spain. And they were corning rats there and peel it and re-eat it, cook it, whatever it is. But look, this was their problems. Rats were there like in the thousands, you know. So they used to go through valises. They used to through everything. But as I said, when once I went to work outside the camp, it was really good. I worked very hard, because sometimes when they had to unload the bricks from the hot ovens, we walked into that oven, everything, they used to put coal in there to bake those bricks. We had to, they didn't want the oven to cool off. So we went into the hot ovens and we took those bricks, no gloves, no nothing, and we carried it on the out, to, But it was good because he treated us nice. We, let's say, if I worked in the garden, the other guy used to put out the food, So I used to go put wood underneath whatever we were cooking. We could buy our food outside, in the farms. It wasn't bad. But as I said, where would I run? We had already words that people ran away to Spain and they threw him in the jail over there. So I said, here, nobody bothers us. So when the Guardmobile took us back, the boss of there went to the governor of the province of Ariège, where Werner belongs. He was a good friend of his. And he said, he would like to have me back. He said, there's nothing I can do. The list came with the names.
Who had sent this list?
The German, I guess, Vichy government or whatever. Who knows who it is. But he said, there's nothing I can do.
What did you think would happen next?
Who knew? But then a few days later, they put us in the train up the way to Drancy.
How many of you left?
They had assembled on the way. They picked up or somewhere already in the train, and I don't know how many. We came to Drancy. The Drancy was full of people, This is where they load up a whole. After a few days, there were 1,000 people on those cattle cars. And it took us 3 days to get to Birkenau. That's actually Auschwitz.
What was the trip like for you?
You should know from it. I hope nobody has to survive this or to live through it. We were all one against the other, facilities there were none. So this is why I got sick from it, because I could not do what the others were doing, Some people passed out. And once they opened the train to let us down, and the SS was watching us, But most of the time we were locked up in there till we reached at 1 o'clock in the morning.
What did you have with you?
Nothing.
Did you have food?
No. And whatever we could carry with us, let's say, put it this way, if we had a piece of bread or whatever. But at 1 o'clock in the morning, we arrived with the train in Birkenau, and there they told us to put everything in your hat, if you had a hat, if not in a handkerchief, to put whatever you had, if it's a ring or a watch or whatever somebody has, to put in there, and then they collected everything.
What did you have?
I had just a watch, that's all. And
what was your first reaction when the train doors opened in Birkenau?
Oh, it was so scary, because when the trains opened up, when the doors from the trains opened up, they jumped up and then down, 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 raus, 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 and there were the capos with big sticks and hitting everybody out, that even one of my closest friends got hit over the head. He had such a big bump on his head, and this is where the selection started.
So what happened next when you got off the train?
So everybody stood in rows of 5, and they had the commander for Auschwitz was there. His name was Hess.
You saw him at that time?
I didn't know who he was, but later on I knew who he was. And there was another one that they said it was Mengele. This I could not be sure of it, but later on they told us. And then they were selecting left, right, right, left. We didn't know where we're going.
Did you know what it meant?
No. Who should know? But we saw already a whole bunch of elderly people laying on the ground like morning and whatever it is, God knows how long they were laying there. And some people were moved over there. And I had two friends of mine. One was a husky guy, young man, was taller than me even. He was taken to the other side. Another one was about 30 years old. Took him also on the other side.
Do you remember their names?
No, no. And so we were selected 233. And they took us in some empty barracks there for the night. And this is where at least we had a bathroom. But I couldn't anymore. It was all burned in me, so who knows. And
did you notice when you had gotten to Birkenau there was any smell, any odor in the air?
no, no. But what I saw in the morning was the worst. Because before that, we saw already what's bad. That night before, when we went in there, this is where, again, they searched us if we didn't hide something. So
Who conducted the searches?
the SS supervising, but the search was done by the capos, the inmates themselves.
How were you searched?
Oh, all over, you know.
Were your
the-
clothes on or off?
No, with the clothes on. And there was one man there that had hidden a diamond in his shoulder pads, and they found it. And they, as an example, put him on the table, and two guys, inmates also, capos, they came with those big sticks, and they hit him on his behind like 25 lashes. The first hit that he got, in German, he says, "Hilf, Hilf." And after the fifth time, he said, I don't know if I should say it in the German, "Ich scheiße in the Hosen." It means, I'm making my pants. They kept on hitting, and then he fell down, but he survived. And the next day in the morning, we saw, when we woke up, we saw the inmates, the Jewish inmates, they were pushing a pushcart. One of them had swollen feet and it open wounds. And they were pushing a pushcart because we had heard during the night shooting. And so there was clothing full of blood and they were pushing this. I said, what is it? We will never come out alive from here. So a little later they took us out, and then they gave us the numbers on the arm.
Could you show us your number?
Yeah, this is it.
Could you tell us the number?
58913.
And what's under the number?
This was done later on. The triangle was done later on when we were already in the other camp. So
what was this like for you when you got this number?
it was hurting, that's all we knew, but we didn't know what it means. So the 233, we get lined up at the exit door from Birkenau. That's part of Auschwitz, actually. And they told us we were going to a working camp.
Were you processed in any other way?
No.
Were your names recorded?
Oh, the process was this. We went in to what later we knew is a gas chamber. We went in, we had to take out all our clothes, and we walked out the other side. And there were some clothes already prepared for us. Not the striped uniform, but just clothes, with other shoes, with everything.
Did the
like
shoes
this,
fit?
they were sure that we did not have anything hidden yet.
Did the shoes fit you?
No, whatever we could find. So, and then we stood at the door to walk to that camp. As I said, there were 233. Two said they couldn't walk. So right there they shoot him, right there on the spot. They told him before they shoot him, you would have been lucky to go there. So we left 231, and this was a walk from 10 kilometers. It's about 6 miles.
Was your hair cut at any time?
No, later on. So we walked the 231 days. One had some swollen feet or had blisters or whatever, and he was falling behind little by little. And he was already in the last row, and then he couldn't walk, so they shot him on the road. And we came 230. It was a brand new camp. There was just 2 inmates there. They remained there. They used to build that camp. So then there was...
What was the name of this camp?
Jawiszowicz. And at that time, the commander of that camp, he had a Polish name because he was like the German called a Volksdeutsch. This is those from the occupied countries that they become Germans. He was there with the man that he was the director of the coal mine. And he chose his people to go to work. So he had to take off everything what we had and whatever. And he looked at us, he chose 150. The other 80 went back to Auschwitz. What became from them, we don't know. Then we had everything prepared there, and they shaved us, whatever it is, and they gave us the striped costumes. And then we went to work, and the food wasn't bad.
What was a typical meal?
Soup with potatoes, whatever there is. In the morning you got a portion of bread. Because they made 3 shifts of it. There was a morning shift, afternoon shift, and a night shift. I had the afternoon shift. So, but they prepared us first, as I said, cutting the hair, whatever. And he used to come, the director of the coal mine used to come, jumped into the kitchen to see what food they give us, because he was really concerned that we should be strong to work. And later on, the food was atrocious. So he once came and he started hollering, why, and this and that. But it never changed, because the food got worse and worse. And we had a group of German inmates came, you know. So they were actually professional coal miners, but they were either politically involved or they were degenerates or whatever there is, and there was also professional thieves or whatever it is, you know, because everyone has his own symbol on, you know. So they became capos or blockhelses, that you know. So that one guy, he was a very short guy, but he was such an animal, and he was an inmate, you know. But he felt himself very strong. So he was standing near the window where you had your soup bowl, to stay there to eat the soup, and or the coffee in the morning, you know. So the thing is, he used to pick on somebody, and he says, "Willst du roten Kaffee? You want a red coffee?" And he hits you right under the nose, so the whole thing was full of blood right away. This was his pleasure. And what can you do? He was strong. So, and this is the way we lived there all the time, till I got a job there besides working in the coal mine to clean the showers. Because one thing they had, the Germans, they were clean. Everything had to be clean. So as I started working the showers, so the inmate commander from the camp, there was an inmate, a German, so he had a dog, a white dog, so he gave me the dog to wash, and I could save a little piece of soap, because like this they only give you a little piece of soap. And they were standing outside when you came out of the shower, you know, from the coal mine, you were full of black dust. If they found a spot on your head, then they hit you over the head, they send you back there. But without soap, how can you take this off? So I was lucky with this. Then what we had there also is I worked in off hours. See, I came back from the afternoon shift. We were supposed to work till 10 o'clock, but sometimes it was 12 o'clock at night because we couldn't get out from the coal mine before the thing was emptied out. What they call the Streep is a vein of coal. That vein of coal had to be cleaned. So if it took more than the 8 hours, so we stood longer.
What tools did you use when you were mining?
Oh, shovel, mostly shovel and pick, you know. So,
did you have to stand in cellar pill when you were in the camp? Did you have lineups?
Oh yeah.
What was that like?
The lineups were the worst, because this is where there were the selections also, you know. You had on the quarter, on the open, you had to drop your pants. And then they looked on you behind. If you had still some meat or flesh on you, you put it back and you go to work. Whoever had lost already, all, you know, so thin, they lost so much weight. So they pulled them in a truck and put them back to Auschwitz. So
what were the bathroom facilities there?
Bathroom was it was like a barrack with holes, you know, what they call here, what do they call it here? I don't know, septic tanks or whatever. Yeah, something like this. But when we came to the camp, we had to do all the lay all the
foundation.
Not the foundation, like irrigation for the dirty water, whatever it is. You know, we had to do that off hours. Like if we worked, like I worked in the afternoon shift, so in the morning I had to work there. The morning shift worked in the afternoon there.
We're going to stop the tape now.
Okay.
Three, our survivor is Joseph Krosberg, and today is September 26, 1996.
Yeah, so as I was saying, I chose to work extra in the bathroom to clean the bathrooms. There was a little advantage. First of all, you keep warm in the winter. It was hard because after the showers, when we came back from work, I had to clean up this. The next day, I could, being that I had hot water and whatever, so from those inmates, they were like capos or blockhelters, they gave us their uniform, as I might call it. They wore the same striped uniforms as us to wash, so we had hot water, so they gave us, because they had plenty of food, so I could get a little more. And besides this, we had the advantage at night to clean from the kitchen the big gigantic kettles that they had where they cooked the soup. So the walls of the kettles, we used to scrape it up, and we had some extra food. And this is like this. I helped sometime my friend that used to work in the morning shift. So I used to have a bowl of soup extra, and I used to wake him up in the middle of the night and give him that bowl of soup.
Do you remember his name?
Oh yeah, he was liberated together with me. Buchhändler.
How did you protect yourself against the weather?
There was no protection.
How did you manage?
We were freezing. That's all we could do. Because so, as I said, I tried to do extra jobs just to keep warm. Like one of the what they call blockhelters took us some time before I went to to clean the showers, to clean their barracks. So we were 4 or 5 guys to clean the barracks. But at least there was an oven in there. We smuggled in some wood to be able to keep warm. All this was the only reason, and to be able to get some extra food, whatever it is. Like that blockers, if he was happy with what you did, so they had food enough, so give a piece of bread or whatever could help.
Do you remember anyone being able to observe any Jewish rituals?
There was a few Hungarian Jews. The rituals they could not observe. The only thing what they observed, they never touched anything that was meat or even the soup. They exchanged everything for bread. And how they knew when the holiday is there, I don't know. Up to now, I could never figure out. How they figure out when it's Rosh Hashanah or where it's Pesach or whatever, you know. But, so, as I said, all those things I was looking myself to get, and it was a privilege when you were admitted to do that job.
Were you ever in a position to help anyone?
Oh yes, I said, my friend, whatever it is, you know, if I had some extra, what else could I help? There's nothing.
Did anyone help you?
Yeah, later on, yes. Later on, just before the liberation. But what I want to bring out also, that there were very tough times in the camp itself. Like the man that I mentioned before, that was when we arrived to Birkenau, and he had hidden that diamond in his head. The man recuperated from his beating, but later on he was so demoralized that he went to the barbed wire, electric barbed wire, and committed suicide.
How long after the beating was that?
This was maybe 6, 7 months, something like this. And this guy helped me also.
How?
In the very beginning, when I came there, as I said, I was constipated and I got high temperature. And they took me to, I'm sorry, I come back to it because, you know, sometimes you remember something. And I collapsed on the, what they call Appellplatz, you know, the...
Were you lined up?
Yeah. And somebody tried to help me, and they just hit him. You're not supposed to, when you stay in line, you're not supposed to. And they took me in to that makeshift hospital that they had there. I had high temperature, and at that time, we didn't know who he was, but this was Dr. Mengele that came in to take a look what's doing there.
What did he look like?
He was a tall guy. At that time, the uniform made him taller than, you know, with those SS uniform and whatever. And he touched my chest to see, and he told him told the doctor, the attendant, it was an inmate, a doctor, to give me some pills. I don't remember what. But later on, I had those friends that came in and told me, listen, you better get out from here, because there's word that the next day, whoever is still there goes back to Auschwitz, goes to the oven or whatever. At that time we didn't know the oven, but so I went with the temperature. I went out. So that man that committed suicide, he got from some Polish worker, got some Epsom salt, and he gave it to me, and this was my whole relief. He actually saved my life. Those are things that you remember so vividly, like it would be yesterday. Because I didn't know what can help. And I wouldn't stay there in the hospital because I knew what was happening.
What news were you receiving about what was happening with the war?
We didn't have too much news. There was a clandestine group there. One of my friends, the close friend that was lived by there, he was a little in contact. So we heard here and there something, but not too much.
How did they get their news?
I don't know really how they got the news. I really don't know. But I know there was a German inmate, and he was supposed to be, before the war started, was supposed to be either in the Communist Party or whatever it is, and they how would I say, they consider him somebody superior to them. They let him go, they didn't let him work too hard, you know, and how he got this, we don't know. Because if I tell you something, it won't be correct, you see.
What sort of conversations did you have in the camp?
Nothing. Just what we did the same day. We never talked about the before the war, because like I told my friends, I said, look, we are here and let's not talk about this. Let's talk how we can survive, because I don't think we will be surviving that. It was hard work.
Did you have any fears?
Not once. Not once. Like coming out, you know, we came out from the shaft, the elevator from the coal mine, and suddenly the whole thing comes up and there's no way to go. There's only one door to go back to camp. And there was one SS man, and he started hitting everybody with, they used to carry in their sleeve a cable, you know, about, I would say, a half-inch thick, you know, a cable, electric cable. And they said, and they hit just for pleasure, you know. And one time, I couldn't move, not left, not right, and I was right there in the center. He hit me over the back that I thought I collapsed, you know, till I got through that door, because it was a narrow door, you know, and the whole group tried to get by, like, you know, when you see in the movies cattle going into it the same way. It was their pleasure. And coming back at night, if the commander got drunk, so he came to the coal mine and he walked with us all the way to the camp. And there, without going to the showers or without getting our food, we had to do exercise. The exercise was really murder. You had to run, first of all, then lay down, then kneel, and then you had a German shepherd that was running after us, you know, and then lay flat, and if we did, let's say there was mud or snow or ice, if we didn't touch the ground completely, used to step on it. We should really lay down. And then rolling, you know, so that your inside were coming out. And after this we were dead, really dead. Like most of the time we ran to the bathroom because everything was bad. Then we went into the showers, and then we got our little food, you know, what we had, and to go to sleep. And I was hardly able to go to sleep early because I had to clean the showers afterwards. But all this was, and don't forget, I was a lot younger. You know, at that time I was 23, 23 and a half, 24, you know. So, but it saved me. It saved me. And a year after we were there, being that they brought in some Poles and Russian inmates, so in order to distinguish Jews from non, they put the triangle underneath the number. This is where they did it, not right away. And what else can I say? We had some good people watching us and some were bad. We had one, he was they call it in German a Schreiber. This is the accountant, the secretary. He was a professional thief. He had that green triangle. But he was the nicest person you can ever find. I know that after the liberation, the people from France that survived took him over and threw a party for him.
What did he do?
He, with his kind words, let's say we were in line to go out to work, so he had to make sure that everybody is there. You know, he called, because we did not have a name, we had a number. So let's say if we called 58913, I had to say, here, you know, that I'm there. And some of our people, you know, they were their own problems, they didn't even listen. So if it would have been somebody else, he would have gotten hit over the head. And so he came, don't you hear it, that your name is called, whatever it is, you know, to make believe. But he was the nicest guy. Some of them were nice, you know, but very few of them. Especially when he had a position. He didn't go to work to the coal mine. He was always in a warm office.
Do you remember his name?
I know his name was Hans, but I don't know his other name. I wouldn't remember him. I mean, his face is right there. I could see him, you know. And the way I heard, he was arrested right after the war. He put it for stealing. But our people helped him. But I don't know what happened later on to him. So, anyway, to continue my work there in the coal mine, we were supposed to extract 400 wagons of coal. Every wagon was a ton, a metric ton. So it's like 2,000 pounds or something like this. And as long as this wasn't finished, you couldn't get out of it. And naturally the work was mostly on your knees because it was very low. But we survived. And one day I was coming down from my shift, and one of the engineers, they called them Steigers, they had that electric thing that we had only a carrying light, but they had this electric light. He grabbed me and said, "Why did you leave this over there for the night?" And then he was going to hit me. They used to have like a cane, but this was like with a pick at the end, you know. So one of the guys was working there, and he was not a really friend, but he was from the same camp with us. When he saw that, he grabbed the guy. He said, "Whatever happened?" He grabbed the guy, didn't let me being hit. You know, and then he said, "I have you killed," he says to me. But then the main engineer passed by, and I had talking to him a few times. He was German, but he was not let's say, a fanatic Nazi. He told me a whole story that he had a Jewish girlfriend when he was young, or whatever it is. And at one time, he took a liking to me. And he used to take me away from there, and he said, "Look, go over there in the other vein, see how far they are." And he lay down and slept. And I told him where they are. That's fine. You know? So he passed by, and he said to the other engineer, I said, "Leave him alone." Because I could have gotten killed right away coming back to camp. But I always worked. I figured with good work, maybe I will save my life. Because they brought in younger people, especially Jews, a young fellow. He was maybe 19 years old, or maybe younger, but well built and everything. He laid down, he says, "Look, they can kill me, I can't work. I can't do it." And they did. Took him back to camp, we never saw him again. You know? But I figured, look, as long as I can work, what can happen? You know? So, till I got sick. This was, I think, in December, 44. One day, I can't walk. So I tried to get to that chief engineer that liked me. And I said, "Something happened, I can't walk. I can't stand." He said, "Okay, so go to the elevator. Start now." Because I couldn't be late. And then my friend helped me, like walking. They kind of carried me all the way home, to the camp. And they helped me go to bed. The next morning, they carried me down and put me in the hospital. And they found out I have rheumatic fever. At that time, the hospital was already bigger, whatever it is. And the chief doctor was a Pole. He was such an anti-Semite, like there's no two of them. He comes also from a Polish town that is known for being anti-Semitic, you know. So he carried me out of bed and he looked at me and said, "You can go to work tomorrow." I said, "I can't go." So at that time, I gave one of my friends to go to the guy that used to rent the bathrooms, the showers. He was a German inmate, and he knew how I was working. And he came to that Polish doctor and he said, "Look, you leave this man alone. He's my man. Leave him there." So he didn't even look at me anymore. You see, like, people can help you. And there was another doctor came. He used to be chief surgeon in the Rothschild Hospital in Paris. So he came, he gave me all kind of pills and like injections. It looked like milk, some white injections. And nobody looked at me besides this. You know, I could not eat. I was on a... They tried to help me, just because the other guy says, "Don't touch him." And I had a friend the one I used to wake up during the night to give him some soup at Buchhändler. And he came in, he says, what would you like to eat? Maybe you can eat something that I can. I said, you know, I would like some, from time to time they had some salami, blood salami. They call it bloodwurst. He sold this bread to get me, and I couldn't even eat it. I thought I will eat it. But he sold this bread to give it to me. So finally, when the time came, this was before the liberation, it was in December, so in the beginning of January, it was the 18th of January. Before that, they came in, the German inmate from the bathrooms, from the showers, came in and said, look, they're going to blow up the camp. But we made arrangement, we put you on a wagon to the march with all the stuff that they have. We put you there. I said, where would I go? Snow was like this, you know, whatever. I said, look, if I have to die, let me die here. And I want to go. And I think this was also a savior for me. Because you know how many died on the march? Terrible. So I stood there.
Who was with you when you stayed back?
We were 111 sick people and 2 old doctors. One doctor was from Nancy in France, and the other one was that doctor from, that I told you, the surgeon, but they were too old, so they left him there. And we know that they left the 18th.
How did you know the date?
Oh, this we knew. This we know. Somehow, I don't remember how we knew, but we know. And when they left, the whole SS left. And another group, being they came back from the Russian front, so another group came in. So they couldn't blow up the camp before they left. So the next group say, oh, you can't stay here because the Russians are coming. We have to take you. Tomorrow we have trucks to take you. Tomorrow those same SS weren't there either. And every day was another story. Till on the 29th of January, 5 o'clock in the morning, we're laying in bed, naturally. And who walks in? A Russian major.
What did you think when you saw him?
This was our liberation. We didn't know what will happen. So he was from a town of Tomsk. He was Jewish, but he never knew Jewish. He never heard the Jew. I mean, he knew Jewish, but he never heard somebody else talk. He said, can you say something in Jewish or whatever it is? And he brought in the whole kitchen, a field kitchen, you know, but the food was greasy, whatever it is, but we ate it anyway.
Until then, while the camp was evacuated, what did you eat?
Whatever was there. Whatever was there. It was outside, the door was still locked. And one time, the director from the coal mine came in with some big officers or whatever. He said, those are my men, they used to work for me, whatever. They brought in some food. The director was, look, he had to be Nazi to have that position, but he was human. So, but till then, till they came, we hardly had anything. There were potatoes that they left there in a silo. And so we ate some raw potatoes, whatever we could grab. And after this, when they came with the kitchen and they gave us the food, they opened the door, go home. I said, how can we go home? First of all, I'm sick. I said, I can't go home. I'm from Belgium. Where can I go home? He said, where's Belgium? They didn't even know where Belgium is. Then the next day, there is a lieutenant came in and he said, who knows how to handle the showers? I said, I know, I worked there. So he said, but I can't walk down. He said, we will get you there. And I got the furnace started. So what he did, he bought me and another friend of mine that passed away a few years back, and 2 cans of meat. You know, those, how do you call it? Canned meat, you know. So we had something to eat. And then later on we couldn't get any food from them. There were Russians, one after the other. They had a ball there and outside, you know, but so there was a horse outside that was killed. It was laying frozen. One of the guys from us, the 111 guys that were there, he knew how to walk. He went out, cut out a piece of that frozen meat, and this is what we ate. And then they came and they took us, the Russians. We are sending you home. So they put us on a big truck, and we traveled all freezing. I mean, the end of January, beginning of February, I mean, this was terrible. And I don't remember the town to where we went there, but on the way, they picked up two soldiers, one officer and one soldier. They were hitchhiking. They picked them up, and one was Jewish. Don't forget, Russia had a lot of Jews. And he said, you are Jewish, but listen, he said, we are stopping there in some kind of a hospital for overnight. I bring you what he said, a kufaika. I didn't know what a kufaika is, but he's bringing, so what else? You know, and what did he? He came in the evening with one of his soldiers, and he says to me, where is your bed? Where are you laying? I said, over there. He went there, and he put me in a jacket, those warm jacket, you know, those quilted jacket, but they're with not those fillers that they have used now, you know. It was goose or, you know, and it was warm. Then I could sit on the truck the next day, you know. And like this we went to all the way till Kiev.
I'm going to stop the tape now.
Okay.
Of Krosberg, and today is September 26th, 1996.
So they gave us for the road a bag with food. There was dried out bread, hard like a rock, kasha, and a bag of salt. We did not what it meant. Finally we arrived in Kiev with that bag. We didn't know what to do with it. So we looked all over, and we decided we're a small group. We leave it there. Who needs that salt? We leave it there. Well, we took the train, and a few hours later, on the train, we saw a carload with salt, a whole train with salt, and on every car there was 2 soldiers with machine guns guarding that salt. That a little farther down we could have gotten for a cup of salt a whole bread. And this is, we arrived in Moscow. And we didn't know where we're going. We arrived on the on the railroad station in Moscow. Guy comes and he said, we can't continue, you all have to go to a shower. And it costs so and so much. Who had money? But we had picked up some Gentiles that were working for the Germans somewhere. They were also from Belgium. So they had some money because they were workers there. So they paid for everything. We went to the showers. And a funny thing happened on the railroad station. There was people, Russian people there, and one woman came with her daughter, and she said, maybe you can take my daughter with you. They wanted to get her out from there.
How?
Well, she must be like, I don't know, 18, 19, something like this, a young daughter. So how can we take the daughter? Listen, she's a good cook. She's a balabusta. She is everything. We couldn't take her, but she was looking to get her daughter out from there. Anyway, then we continued on the train, and then we know the destination. We go to Murmansk. We passed out not far from Leningrad, but it took us the longest way to go to Murmansk. This is the northern part of Russia. But they used to bring the convoys from America to over there because that sea was never frozen. The day we arrived in Murmansk, this was the day they announced there that Roosevelt died. There we went to the barracks there. By that time I'd picked up a little strength already. And befriended with two guys. They were on the road. One was Jewish, the other one was Gentile. No, they both were Gentiles. Both were Gentiles, yeah. And we tried to get some more food than what they could give us. So there was like a restaurant there, whatever it was. And we asked him if we could chop wood for them.
Were you guarded?
No, there were guards outside, but not really guarded, the Russian soldiers. And so they said, okay. So we always used to carry here a spoon, wherever we could find some food. So we chopped some wood there, and they gave us some extra food. And I don't remember how long we were there. And they said, we can't send you back to Murmansk because there's too many U-boats yet around. Yeah. We're supposed to go to England, and from England to go to Belgium. So they decided to send us all the way back to Odessa. You realize how long it is. So they put us on the train, and everybody had to pick up some wood on the way. It was cattle cars, but open, they were not closed. And there was like an oven in between, in the middle. We put that wood in there. The smoke you could die from the smoke. So you had to open the window. So the cold weather came in. Over there was freezing, It had ice whenever we came out from there. And little by little, while you're traveling, it got warmer and warmer till we got to Odessa. In Odessa also, we stayed, it must have been quite a few weeks because we left there in the beginning of June. And in Odessa, we were on the beach, there was also like a big barracks there where we stood. They feed as much as they could, but at that time we got already packages from the Red Cross. So
where did you go after this?
From Odessa, we went to the Mediterranean, naturally, out to Egypt, Port Said. There they had a stop where they had to load up coal. And then we went all the way to Marseille. This is where the final destination was. From Marseille, we put us on a train to go to Belgium. And when we came to the Belgian border, as soon as we come over the Belgian border, the police came up. And one of the three friends, we were, I told you, with two more friends, one of them they took down. They arrested him right away.
Why?
He was a Nazi. But he was hitting like with everybody.
How did they know that?
They must have known it. I don't know how.
How did you feel when you saw this?
We could not believe it. He was so friendly. He was so nice in helping and everything. But he was a Nazi, a Belgian Nazi. And this is when I arrived in Brussels. Naturally, the feeling I don't have to explain to you. When I saw the outskirts of Brussels, you know, I could cry that I was home.
Were you able to locate any family?
My uncle was there, the one that still lives here now, with his wife. His wife was Gentile. So my first question was, where's my mother? So, don't worry, she will be there, don't worry. Little by little I had the feeling that she's not there. But I was so that I couldn't even shed a tear. Everything was in me, you know. And that was it in Brussels.
What was the Jewish community like after the war?
It was a very small community, very small. They deported 30,000 Jews from Belgium. And as it is, there were not that many there. A lot of them never came back. They stood in England or whatever, you know. So, and then I lived with my uncle for quite a while. And I met my wife.
How?
To another friend. I know that friend way before my wife knew her, but she was like a good girlfriend of hers. And I went out with that girl, some kind of a picnic somewhere, you know. And my wife was with other friends, and then we were reintroduced, and so, and being that I worked with my uncle, he did custom jewelry.
What did you do?
I was mostly in the office with him, and I you know, writing the bills or whatever it is, you know. And if there was some job to do inside, I did.
What was your wife's name?
My wife, Esther Krosberg.
Her maiden name?
Kava.
When did you get married?
I was married in December 13, 1947.
How did you support yourselves when you were married?
Yeah, I went to work. That's it. I went to work doing what I knew best, is raincoat maker. It was hard, but and then my wife got pregnant right away because my daughter was born a little over 10 months after we got married.
What's her name?
Sonia. Lives here in New Jersey.
Did you have other children?
Yes. I have a younger daughter. She was born in Santo Domingo.
When did you go to Santo Domingo?
Santo Domingo, we left there in April ¡53.
Why did you leave Brussels?
It was too hard to make a living. It was not that great. And my wife's sister had gone there with her husband and her son. They went there because her husband had a brother and a sister living there. They were also refugees, but they left like in 1940, 1941 they arrived there. So they went to join them. And we got letters, oh, you should come, it's so nice here, and you know. So we figured we will go. We went there.
Did you have any difficulty getting a visa?
They sponsored us. That's the only thing. Otherwise, and we arrived in 1943. My wife was pregnant with 4.5 months. So.
How did you earn a living there?
Oh, I worked at farms. We were leased a farm, let's say. It's supposed to be ours. It was like a mortgage that you paid, I don't think, $10 a month or whatever it is. And this is where we used to get our profit. Also, we used to get a side job, you know, that the cooperative or the administration gave you there. So I used to work on a tractor there and take care of their own farms or whatever it is.
What was Jewish life like there?
Jewish life was nice. There was a lot of also intermarriages. Some people came there, especially with like Jewish men with gentle wives, you know, either from Switzerland, where they ran away from Austria, or also there was a whole group that came from Shanghai. So they had a temple there. And the temple was just open for the high holidays. The rabbi was not the real rabbi, but I guess he knew a little bit of Jewish tradition. I wouldn't say the religion tradition. So that's about it. And we lived like in a small community.
Did you have any relationship with the native people there?
Yeah, they worked for us, and they were outstandingly nice. Very polite, very helpful. Yeah.
How long did you stay there?
We came, like I said, in April '53. My wife and the children left in November '57. I had to stay behind to liquidate what I had. So I left there in February '58.
Where did you go?
New York, the Bronx.
How did you support yourself in New York?
My first day, my wife at that time had find a job in a dairy restaurant, and I was looking for a job. So I found, I don't remember how I saw that ad in the Jewish paper that somebody's looking for a cutter in Williamsburg by the Satmar. I don't know, I didn't know at that time. Now I know it's a Satmar Hasidim. And he had a store, and he was preparing there at the tailor there on Division Street. There were two partners. So I came there one night, and he said, let me see what you can do. It was 2 weeks after I came here. And I showed him, he said, okay, you can start coming. He paid me $2 an hour. For me, it was a fortune, at least. And being they were preparing for Passover, so they had a lot of customers, so I could cut, and he was very nice, very helpful.
How do you identify as a Jew now?
What do you mean by identifying? I mean, I respect somebody else if he is very fanatic, religious, or he's progressive, or whatever it is. I respect. I feel that I am deep down, I feel very much Jewish. I still speak a perfect Jewish. I still feel if there is a Jewish show, not the English Jewish, but the Jewish show, I will try to get there. I still collect Jewish music, you know, if I can, because I feel very much Jewish.
How do you spend your free time now?
Free time, since I'm retired, I try not to get up too early because all those years I worked very hard. I worked 2 jobs, 3 jobs, whatever it is. And now that my kids are married and they have their own children, so I was doing up to 2 years ago, I was doing everything in this house. I painted, I do everything. But then I had some bad operations and I don't do it anymore. So I listen to music, I read my paper, whatever it is, and this, I sit and talk with my wife, although it will be 49 years that we are married, but we still have so many things in common. She sits on the couch, I sit across the street. I can't even read a paper. We just sit and talk.
What one thought comes to mind when you think back to the Holocaust?
That I don't know how I survived, and whoever asked me a question, I would say it's pure luck. Nothing else but luck.
Do you have any dreams or nightmares?
Very few times. I dream sometime of whatever, but it's not really a nightmare, you know.
What is it?
It's just a dream that what happened to whom I remember or whatever, you know, but not really nightmare where you wake up screaming or whatever. No, this I don't.
What do you think gave you the strength to survive?
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. I think it's like an animal tries to survive no matter what it is. So I survived. I tried to get some more food, to do some extra things. Because also Paul helped me a lot there in coal mine. I'm sorry because it just came up now. Remember that. I worked with the Poles, and we were like their helpers. So he knew that I'm young, I can work, shovel the coal just as much. So he was sitting on the side, let me work. So he said, if you can get a can, some kind of a field can, if you can get this, whatever my wife will cook, I'll bring you something. So I knew somebody that was in the warehouse there, from those things that they were bringing in from the camp, from the people that they bought in, a can with a cover. And I smuggled it out there to the camp, and I gave it to him. Every day he used to come like it was his own lunch. And there was potatoes with cabbage or whatever it is. It helped me. So I didn't mind. I figured I work for him, but as long as I have some food. You see, because it just occurred to me. He asked me how I survived. I mean, it's about what I can remember of this.
When were you first able to discuss what happened?
Oh, right after the liberation. We discussed it many times.
With your children?
Oh, my children all the time. That one time, my older daughter says, it's enough already, whatever it is. Don't talk about it. I said, no. You have to know what it is. And would you believe it, that my older daughter, after she got married, she moved to Marlboro, New Jersey. She got involved from the Children of Holocaust. And their children are much involved. Like my granddaughter, the oldest one, she, whatever I had for literature or movies or whatever it is, she will just devour it. And she feels so Jewish, you know. She went, even from college, she went to Israel for 6 months. She got credit, naturally, for her school. And
Did you ever question the existence of God?
Yes. I'm sorry, I don't know if it's a blasphemy or whatever it is, But I remember when I started working in New York, there was a very religious man that came up, and he was from the Satmar. And he used to take out some work to do in his house because he did not want to sit in a factory where he sits near a woman. And it turns out I was talking to him, and it turns out he was in that where I was, but only for one day. So he asked me if I laid film. I said no. Why not? So I questioned, like, where was God? It's for your sins. I said, for my sins? I don't know what I sinned. But what about the babies that they were killed? He said, for their father's sin. I said, you know what? You're an idiot. I'm sorry to... I hope I didn't offend anybody, but this was my feeling. That God had permitted 6 million Jews to get killed. That's what I can tell you.
What advice do you have for your children and grandchildren?
The advice is that they should know they're Jewish, to preserve the Jewish heritage. They want to be religious or not religious, this is their business. I can't tell them how or when. And they know they're Jewish. They all know they're Jewish. As a matter of fact, my younger daughter, when she was still in school, and we were talking all the way, trying not to meet a Gentile. So one day she had a very good friend, a Gentile, and her brother wanted to take her out. And we told her, no. She said, but it's just to... I said, this is where it starts. So she listened to me. She broke up with that girlfriend, not to be in touch like this. Later on, she became friendly with the girl anyway. She never went out with that Gentile boy. Although she did not have too much of success with the Jewish boy, this is besides the point.
What message would you now like to deliver to the world?
To the world, watch your back. Because no matter what it is, if it's in the United States or anywhere else, it could happen again if you don't watch it. Like this morning, I still say that those people, this morning I saw on television, they still preach all this. People don't believe that the Holocaust existed. Or they believe it, they know it existed, but they don't want to further the thing that it existed. Because I know when I worked here with people, they said, it can't be. And there was one guy that working there, and he said, how can you say that? I was with the army, we liberated one of the camps. He was there, and he worked in the medical division. He was not a doctor, but he was helping there. And he said, I saw all those sick people or dying people. How can you say it didn't exist?
Thank you on behalf of the SHOAH Foundation.
I hope that somebody will learn from that lesson. And thank you for the interview.
Can you tell us about this photo?
Yeah, and this is the father of my mother, my grandfather.
His name?
His name is Melach Shabason. He was also, at his late age, he was deported to Majdanek, and this is where he died.
Do you know when this was taken?
I wouldn't know, but it's way before the war, way before the war. Must have been in the early 30s.
How did you get this?
It was preserved, if I had told you that my uncle was married to a Gentile. So she crept into the apartment when my mother was taking, And she took out a lot of pictures and whatever she could save, you know. This is the way I got it.
Who's in this photograph?
Starting from the bottom at the right-hand side, there is my grandfather, my father's father, next to
His name?
Krosberg. And then is my grandmother, his wife, Krosberg. Then is one, it's her daughter, but I would not remember her name. At the top, starting from the right, is my father. Then his
Name?
Joseph Krosberg. And the other one, I don't remember, it's his brother, but I don't remember his first name. And then the last one is also one of his brothers, but I don't remember his name, I never knew them.
Do you know when this was taken?
It must have been in 1920, because my father is still on there.
Where was it taken?
It must have been either in that Kanskavola or Polavi or whatever. Yeah. The center on top is my grandfather, my mother's father. To his left is his oldest son, my mother's brother and his wife.
The names?
He was Moshe Shaba's son. And she, I forgot her name.
Your grandfather's name?
Melach. To his right, one of his also sons, SHOAH, with his wife. And on the bottom, sitting down, are all his children, that's SHOAH's children. The three little ones, I don't know their name. And the older one is Sevek, they call him, but I don't know his real Jewish name. The last time I know he was living in Israel.
Do you know when this was taken?
This was also taken in the 30s, early 30s, I guess. This is my birth certificate. It was taken after I was born, I guess.
What other information's on here?
When I was born, who my father and mother is, and so forth and so on. I could not read it now because it's in Polish, so I wouldn't know that.
Could you tell us about this?
This was my father.
His name?
This was my father, Joseph Krosberg, that passed away 6 weeks before I was born.
When was this taken?
This must have been taken in the beginning of 1920.
Our survivor is Joseph Krosberg, and today is September 26, 1996.
Yeah, this is a picture of my mother and me before we left Poland. This was done in the mid-1929. This is one of the nicest pictures, my point of view. I repeat. Okay, this is my mother and me. This is a picture taken just before we left Warsaw to go to Belgium. And I was at that time 8 years old. Ready? This is a working permit that every foreigner in Belgium had to have in order to get work. And this was done in 1938 or 39, I think. This was a must. Without this, you could not get a job. That's all I wanted to do. This is our marriage certificate, done December 13, 1947.
Who issued this?
The Belgium Civil Court.
What information is in here?
Name of bride and groom, the date of birth and where.
Are there other pages in this?
Yeah, there's other pages inside for the children that at that time would come. And there is only that one daughter that was born over there.
Her name?
Her name is Sonia. This is a picture right after the wedding in civil court.
Could you identify the people in the picture?
A big one?
Could you tell us who's in the picture?
Oh, my wife,
Her name?
Esther Krosberg,
Her maiden name?
Kava, and myself. Starting of sitting down to my left is my wife,
Her name?
Esther Krosberg, my older daughter, Sonia, her married name is Lieberman.
Who's on the left standing?
On the left standing above my wife is myself. Next to me is my younger daughter, Frida. Her name is Frida Ostrov. Next to her is her daughter, Diana. Next to her is the bar mitzvah boy, because this was done on his bar mitzvah. It's about 7.5 years ago. His name is Michael. Next to him is my son-in-law, my older daughter's husband. His name is Henry Lieberman. Next to him is his older daughter, my oldest granddaughter. Her name is Amy. Next to her is her sister, Karen, and the little boy in the white jacket is my youngest grandson. His name is Scott
His last name?
Lieberman.
And who's next to him?
I think I mentioned it, Karen. Yeah, I mentioned all this.
Could you tell us about this?
Yeah, this is my so-called uniform from camp,
Which camp?
Jawisowitz. This is the only one I really lived there for almost 2.5 years. And on the left part of my jacket, you can see this, the number is washed out, but you can still see the 3 superposed triangles, one red and one yellow. That means Jewish.
What did the red mean?
Nothing. If it was a red upside down, just one, is a political inmate. If it was green upside down, was a thief or whatever it is. And black was, how do you call it? Somebody was either a pimp or something like this, a degenerate too. And next to the triangles used to be the number that is washed out now, 58913. On the jacket, underneath the jacket you can see my pants, that also on the side had also usually the number and also the triangles. But it's all washed out after 50 years, almost. More. Yeah, in this we were summer and winter. I will introduce my lovely wife from almost 49 years, and I hope it continues for many, many years to come. And on my right is my younger daughter, Frida. Her married name is Astrav. And what can I say? I'm happy that I have a nice family, and I hope we all stay in good health to enjoy it. And thank you so much for the tape.
I just want to say that this was a house that was filled with love. Very proud of my parents. They came a long way, came here with nothing, and I think they've done very, very well for themselves. They're happy. The love that they have together is, I've never seen any other couple like this. I'm very proud of them.
As you can see, I have a very delightful family that I'm very proud of, and I'm very happy that you managed to contact us to make that tape. And like my husband said, we are very happy and hope to continue it that way.
So, what else can I say? Only good health and enjoy, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.